And we are live. What's up, y'all? How y'all feeling out there? All right, so when we're recording the Omi show, which we record usually on Thursdays, that's why y'all just got to catch us live when y'all catch us live. Because we don't know which day it's going to be on. But typically it's on Thursdays. Having said that, when we usually record, we run out of time because we got more things to talk about than the amount of time that we have. So then we go live. So here we are on the after show. At the end of the show, we was really getting into it. So that like this right here, we started talking about Essence Fest and what's happening with, I don't know if y'all see the news, but they're saying that Essence Fest owes the convention center over 400 in New Orleans, a little over $400,000 because they didn't pay the rest of their invoice. To be fair, Essence Fest did make a payment of $50,000 to the convention center. However, that's the surface news, and that was the news that was out there that the media platforms were putting out. But behind the scenes, Cope called my attention to some other parts, which is if we take a look at Essence being able to operate the way it normally would in 2024, they received $3 million from Louisiana State Legislature. In 2025, they went all the way down to receiving $1.2 million from Louisiana State Legislature, right? And Louisiana State's the lawmakers are saying the reason why they reduced it is because they low hotel occupancy rates and low attendance rates. Basically, they're saying that the impact is not there, right? But check this out. Well, if you lower the amount of money you give me, how do you expect me to increase attendance? So here we are. Now, what Cope brought up at the end, I might
Hmm.
let you bring that back.
Yeah, I'm going to bring it back. I
Okay.
think I think what we have is a systematic dismantling of black media and targeting not just black media but black women. It's a continuation of black women being targeted and specifically targeting Rich Shalou Dennis. And
Mmm.
because he runs Essence, and because the success of his investment platform supporting black women, when you erode high-paying government, six-figure government jobs and high five-figure government jobs that were employing black women, and you see a decrease of 300,000 jobs that are targeting black women, and then you have the largest festival that targets primarily black women, you're going to see a decrease in attendance when the high-income earners of that community have lost their jobs. It's a natural linkage,
You're
but
saying
that's where
something. Go
Mhm.
ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But that's where the state generally would say, we want to maintain this event in Louisiana, in New Orleans for the economic impact, but it's not transactional, it's relationship based. So the reason why the state would decrease the funding doesn't really make sense, because it's not a transaction when you deal with event organizers and event promoters. Just like when golf, the other platforms that they major events that they sponsor, the state sponsors are LIV Golf and the bowling tournament. I don't think they want us to go deep into how much bowling actually contributes to the economic impact of New Orleans and Louisiana. I don't think they want us to go that deep. So, what I really believe is that they're targeting a platform that looks like it is black oriented. And if you look at the other targeting that has happened against rich aligned organizations, that we just saw the headline with NBC Universal suing
Group
Group
black.
Black. What I believe is that, you know, the guns are out.
But
And
you're saying something.
mhm.
You're saying something that I want to highlight real quick around the systematic takedown. Okay, so there's a systematic like takedown of like black culture, and like if y'all don't know, like it's happening, right? You pay attention, like stay woke because everything black is slowly being dismantled by the power and the money being ejected from it or rejecting it in different
Mhm.
ways. That whole DEI breakdown, even though we could look at the stats and say white women historically benefited most from DEI, right? There's still There's the black, there's LGBTQ, all that. Like, we're watching it break down, right? But what we don't often get a chance to really catch or say while it's happening is, who are they doing a systematic takedown of? And then, like, where do those people fall prey in a way to some cultural pieces that they may have forgotten? So, for example, the whole Rich Dennis thing, right? Like, during the Me Too movement, I think it came out he was caught up in that too. Some
Hmm.
allegations there. That was the first, like, he stepped down. Like, I can't call that inside of the, like, systematic takedown, but I would say that, like, that was a moment of decline popping up. Like, it was like, okay, there's that. Caroline Wanga, amazing, love her, takes over, right? Then here we go. Essence has just continued to take a hit. Like,
Yes.
and like, it just continuously takes a hit. So, outside of that, we talked about earlier on the show, which is on the recording. So Sundial is who owns Essence. But then outside of that, Rich Dennis is also tied to Group Black. Group Black is right now being sued for, was it 35 million?
35 million
Um,
by NBC
by
Universal. Yes.
NBC Universal. What Cope was saying was interesting for us to observe. We have no proof. This is all alleged, and these are all just things we're thinking that could be the case. Which, who's to say? What if NBC Universal is related to this relationally? Lawmakers in Louisiana, or DEI killing of DEI, deciding to not give as much capital to Essence Fest in this, like, total breakdown. There's a takedown of Rich himself
Hmm.
for whatever reason. Okay, because I don't know behind the scenes. I feel like sometimes we be forgetting we Black, so I don't
Hmm.
know what happened behind the scenes of his relationships or whatever the case is. Something could have happened, nothing could have happened. But also this piece around, like, there's the media companies being owned by people who are Trump supporters, related, this,
Hmm.
like, everything being related to Trump somehow, coming, all roads leading back to relationships of some sort. And
Yes.
then the, like, oh, we don't got to do DEI no more. Psh, we ain't got to give money to, like, Louisiana is a deep red state. They go, oh, we ain't giving no money to DEI. Oh, psh, that was the last cycle for that. We done with them. Let's shut them down. Let's get them up out of here.
Exactly. And then the narrative, if you saw how it played out, it worked, it fed straight into what I call, I believe there's elements, perfectly legitimate elements about the Black American culture, the foundational Black American culture being highlighted, elevated, and celebrated. But there's an anti-immigrant posture within it that is something that taps into a lot of the funders of FBA are right-wing organizations that want to elevate the message that are anti-immigrant. And this played into the anti-immigrant narrative where it seems like people are trying to say Black immigrants, once they touch a Black legacy property, are ruining it. Meanwhile, it's being orchestrated. The ruin of it is being orchestrated by different players in back rooms, right? And I would bet that there are people who would love to see Essence go bankrupt and get sold, or to go, just to end. I would bet that there are people who would love to see Rich Dennis not to have the platform to invest in Black beauty brands anymore. I can tell that most people would be upset about the value that he's created in the community for, Mialu and Natural All Club, and a lot of the different brands that he's invested in. I would bet that not everyone has looked upon that with rosy eyes and looked for ways to take that down.
And I think so. It's interesting because if anybody watched the America's Next Top Model documentary, right? That's on. I don't know if you can call it an expose, but I would just call it a documentary that's on Netflix right now. One of the things, there's a couple sobering moments that I've had over the past maybe week, where I just had to wake up to a reality, right? So like, in the controlling of the media right now, to your point around, like, Essence Festival being taken down in a certain way. So there's a controlling of the media and the narratives and who people want to be funded. That's happening among conservatives. And it's happening among people who don't want to see DEI, don't want to see black folks win, don't want to see these things exist. And I'm going to say conservatives are participating, and not all of them are, some of them are black. Okay, let me just say that. There's some black folks that don't want to see, these things exist in some ways, and that's unfortunate. Sobering moments that came up for me that kind of is similar to this was like, oh, wake up. Actually, there's relationships happening in this takedown that all have somewhere agreed, hey, we don't want these folks to move forward. One of the things that happened in the America's Next Top Model documentary that I thought was interesting, right, is like there's a story about Shandy. And if you watched it when it was live, then you saw the story of Shandy. But Shandy seemingly cheated on her boyfriend, right, on the show. However, let's take that a step back. All these women are in this, in the America's Next Top Model room or whatever, and then somebody says, "Hey, let's let the guys come over."
Now,
right?
this is on a trip to Italy. They invite over Italian models to party with them, and they are drinking. All the women, all the people are drinking. But who is not drinking, which I think is really key to bring up here, is there are people who are working, and they are the production team.
And they're filming everything.
And they're filming everything. They're watching all of this happen. And this is a work environment, right? Even though it's a show, it's a work environment.
It's a work environment. So they're all drinking. Shandy gets too drunk, they say. And then honestly, according to Shandy, she blacked out. Her and this dude, they ended up in intercourse. The production crew filmed the entire thing.
Did not air the entire thing.
They didn't air the entire thing, but they filmed the entire thing. The part that they aired was as if she was a willing participant. Now, I'm not going to go too far into that story, but the thing I want to say that was sobering is that Nigel Barker, who is a photographer, he said, and this, I don't know if he said it on a show or in an interview. In an interview today, I did see it in a clip. I don't know that it was in the actual documentary though. But he said, okay, but these girls don't have choices, right? Everybody, their entire environment is being controlled. They don't just get to have a phone. They don't just get to invite anybody over. So who said, let's let the guys come over? What production idea was it to say, let's let the guys come over, let's drink with them? Somebody on that cast was a part of saying, somebody told that person to say, let's let the guys come over. Know how we know? Because their whole entire environment was controlled. So I'm saying all that to say, seemingly on the show, it looked like, oh, let's let the guys come over. And then they did it. But they didn't have that level of control. So this is a crazy time for me to pull in. But I'm saying when it came to the cultural wars around Essence being like, oh, these Africans are upset with these black people upset with these Africans coming in. Who said that? Like who planted that narrative? Oh, they mad about somebody planted that narrative, yo. That is my thought. Rich been owning Essence. That ain't new.
Exactly.
That ain't new. Okay, the African people coming to Essence, that ain't new. So who's planting this narrative to further this idea of we don't like each other, right? These are controlled environments. You know what I mean? Like these are the environments where anybody can come to Essence. Why all of a sudden now it's a black versus African thing? And I'm saying it to say we gotta wake up and see where there are planted people controlling these narratives. And that's the thing, going back to the NBC Universal, state legislature, all of a sudden Rich is being sued from all these different directions. And I'm not a Rich defender. You know what I mean? I
Mhm.
don't, I'm not here to defend whatever he does is good and bad. He could be doing terrible things. I don't know. I'm just saying that in the cultural breakdown of like black culture is being attacked. Period. Right? The idea that we can talk more about America's Next Top Model, but it was sobering when I heard him go. Because I mean, like, if you're looking at it and you take it on the surface, you're going, "Dang, Shandy got too drunk." But who allowed that? Because that environment was a controlled environment. Somebody allowed that variable for the sake of the story.
And
Somebody is
that
allowing these
moment.
variables for the sake of the story.
Exactly. But that moment in that show, and even the entire documentary itself, is two things to me: getting ahead of the story, the real story, and then also trying to shape the narrative of accountability. Because the accountability relative to who should have stopped someone who is drunk from having a sexual encounter when you're watching it, there's an accountability there, right? It's on camera. And I mean, this storyline has been it was actually taken and turned into a SVU episode of one of those ripped from the headlines where SVU talked about this scenario specifically and tried to highlight the immorality in watching people be sexually to have not be able to consent, right? And to watch it from a production standpoint. And it's happened across the Hollywood industry where people have had to be accountable for this. Productions have shut down because of it. So the fact that it didn't happen, and then when they look back on it, there's no true accountability, to me demonstrates the reason why this piece of content is actually coming out at this time is because there's another piece of content that is like a no holds bar actual journalistic piece of documentary that is going to examine the actual the whole series, and that might be a little bit more hard hitting, but it's not going to feature. I don't think it's going to have guests of a lot of the main folks that were producing or
There's
hosting.
another piece coming out.
Yeah, not from Netflix. This Netflix one is getting ahead of this piece. That's what's really happening.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. So there's
Yeah,
another America's Next Top Model like expose coming out.
exactly.
When is that dropping? Because I need to know.
It's dropping later this year. I've had insider knowledge of this because of friends that I've had that were reached out to participate. They were on America's Next Top Model. So there's two competing productions that are essentially this one that's on Netflix is to get ahead of, and this is why it didn't really examine or hold a lot of people accountable because it's really more of a the producers putting out content to hold themselves slightly accountable,
Oh,
getting
check
ahead.
this. Oh, wow. Sorry. Because now I'm
Mhm.
looking at it. It says another Next Top Model documentary is coming. Just when we thought there was enough tea on America's Next Top Model, we're getting a second serving and it's piping hot. E is the one releasing it. E is releasing a docu-series that shines light on the dark side of TV. The series is called Dirty Rotten Scandals. It features three popular programs, namely Dr. Phil, America's Next Top Model, and The Price is Right. What? The docuseries on E looks at scandals on television, including allegations of exploitation, sexual harassment lawsuits, discrimination, and more. The back-to-back episodes will air on March 11th. Focus on highly conversational runway reality competition. There were already hints about the upcoming America's Next Top Model special episodes. Former contestant Lisa D'Amato has talked about has talked about it. In fact, she had some choice words for Netflix reality check. You know what? I love this makes sense because I also thought to myself, why would they only have 3 episodes of this? There was so much more for them to get into in this America's Next Top Model reality check one, but it's because they're getting ahead of this one that's coming out on E.
That's
Friend, thank
why
you for saying that.
that's why it is what it is. It feels rushed when you think about it. the amount of episodes that American Next Top Model has, and there's an opportunity to really almost to forgive America's Next Top Model slightly because it is a reality show, right? But there's real problems with the modeling industry and how it deals with the participants in it, women and men. That should be examined, and it was largely a reflection of the modeling industry and how it is such a close proximity to a lot of sex trafficking, a lot of issues when you think about the Epstein class. It is very proximate to that, and that is the problem that was showing that industry the way it was and trying to make it light and have levity of the competition of a reality series. That's the problem. That's what they could have dealt with, but not when you're trying to rush and get ahead of a narrative.
So also what's interesting about it is that Janice Dickinson is gonna be in this new one. She has a quote saying America's Next Top Model really tortured these girls for Tyra Banks' ego. You know what's interesting about that? Is I wondered why Janice Dickinson wasn't in this documentary because they got all the other people in there. So I'm like, wonder where is Janice Dickinson at, right? Now that's interesting because they did play her up as a villain. This is Tyra. Tyra's so she's so sneaky, yo. They have Janice Dickinson looking like a villain. She's telling all these girls they're too fat. You know, and Janice was doing that because Janice is a old school supermodel. Well, come to find out, Janice is going to be in this other expose that's coming out on March 11th. So I'm like, oh, that's what's happening.
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
I like now the challenge for me is I wanna be on Tyra's side, right? But if you look at a lot of the stuff that Tyra was doing at that moment, I don't think she was doing it for posterity, right? She was doing it for the moment, and it was in the moment, it was it it was problematic, people had problems with it, but it wasn't as reflectively problematic as it is now. Like a lot of the stuff, I didn't see the Shandy stuff, and I didn't really watch America's Next Top Model when it was out. Maybe culturally, a lot of women were watching it, and I just wasn't into appointment television at the time. But I did hear about a lot of the issues relative to how Black women felt about the show not featuring a lot of Black women's body types and imagery, and especially women that had natural hair or shorter hair or more um, Black traditional features. So I never felt it was for me. I always felt it was for like the show. But I really am surprised that it doesn't like they didn't take advantage of the ability to seriously examine and then address their I just thought that Tyra would, take the time to address it in a way that allows her to come out on top as opposed to what this is. This is not what I would expect of her and her media savviness.
So here's the thing. Wait, we have to mute back and forth. What's interesting about Tyra is even her posture sitting in the chair was really like, let's talk about this shit so I can get it out of the way. You know what I mean? Like she did not come to actually rectify anything in my opinion. Like, and I don't want to paint her as a villain per se because I do, Sherry Shepherd she got it really emotional on her show and talking about how y'all don't know what we have to go through to keep these shows going and what we're asked to do. And don't get me wrong, I hear her on that. And it's still a question of integrity. How far are you willing to go to keep your show on when you got other professions? I mean, I'm no tea, no shade. I get y'all want to have a show so bad, but like you're also a comedian, you're also a model. So I don't know that I want to keep my show. And I don't know. Let me say this. I've never been in that position, so I want to honor the fact. I want to honor that. But there are hard. I don't know that I would want to keep my show on so bad that I'd be willing to put girls in blackface. But I don't know that I want to keep my show on so bad that I would want girls passing out on set. I don't know that I want to keep my show on so bad that I wouldn't be able to recognize sexual assault. But here's what I'll say. if we're honest with ourselves, the lens at which some of us were looking at that back then, and I think I was, shoot, I don't even know where year it is. I was probably like a teenager. I wasn't aware of the way they painted the picture. I also thought Tiffany was crazy. The way they painted the picture, I also thought Shandy was just cheating on her boyfriend. The way they painted it, like the way the picture was painted, it had all of us in agreement with most of the show. Now, some things you might have been like, dang, that's crazy. That's a little bit too far. But at that time, you had what was it, X Factor and all that, people eating bugs. So at that moment, reality was viewed as being something that was crazy. So because it wasn't now like, well, you have all the rules, and now like you can't really, like Love and Hip Hop, they attempt to fight and then they stop them. Like all these different rules that have come into play with reality TV are now there. But this is a no holds barred, free for all. We just want everybody entertained kind of moment in entertainment history that we do have to acknowledge. Now, I think there's a yes and to it. Like, I don't think Tyra did the best job of showcasing that she has any empathy. Like she looked like a cold bitch on, like, in this documentary. I ain't gonna lie, and I don't know that that's her personality. I don't know that, but she looked, and like her interview complimented the view that she was just a straight up bitch. She complimented it. Like, she did not combat that in any way, shape, or form. Like, we're seeing Jay in the hospital, right? Like, having suffered. We're seeing Miss J in the hospital having suffered so much, and Tyra seemingly not giving a fuck. You know what I mean? We've seen her.
I
We
mean,
see
but I wanna, sometimes people are friends for a reason, sometimes people are friends for a
for a
season,
season.
and
Okay,
sometimes
true.
people
Okay,
are not
touche.
friends at all. And the camera makes it seem something different. I don't know the nature of their relationship, but when I heard about her not showing up at someone's hospital bed, sometimes you're not welcome, right? And I don't know what the state of it is, even though I did hear some commentary that he expected to see her at the hospital bed. At least you would expect, because of their relationship, that there may be some flowers, right? If you hear about someone having such a traumatic moment, no matter what is between you and you two, because
Okay,
of her
bro, but come on now.
I think
Let's.
she could be magnanimous, and she might not be doing well in life. Who knows what's going on? I mean, a lot of things. I've heard some stories about her businesses not going the direction that she would like, right? And to be honest, I have a soft spot for people who are models that have transitioned or trying to transition away from like that industry into further success, but that doesn't escape the liability from creating havoc along the way. But I just feel that what she did in creating that media property was difficult to create and should be acknowledged for the success that it was and the challenges it created and how she was younger at that moment. And I feel the biggest challenge is that without wrestling with the topic well about how she was learning to produce television at that moment, and maybe she let other people dictate things. She talked about being involved and she wants to take credit for the success, and at the same time she wants to be shielded from the liability of the accountability around the activities that happen. And I think it has to just be a discussion around, you weren't that involved, but you were learning to be involved
But that's a lie. She was involved.
from the very first moment, or did she get more involved later? Because when you first get
I
started on the
I think
series.
honestly, I think, and I don't
Mhm,
know. Listening to what she was saying, her and Ken was like in step. Now, whether or not there was other things coming down from I'm sure there was other things coming down from the network.
mhm,
But according to the way the picture, it sounded to me, there were times where she was acting like, well, I didn't know, but it didn't seem like that, to be honest. Like, it seemed like her and Ken was sort of like a step. It didn't seem like it didn't seem like she was being produced by Ken, right?
mhm.
It seemed like her and Ken, and he should be taking some slack. Like, I think it's unfair that has to take all of it. That's what I will say, because we should be focused on his ass too. These Mona Scotts and Kim Motts of the world, they don't get to just be like, oh, nobody lay behind the scenes, so ain't nobody paying attention to them. No, they're at the head of all this too. And I think like they have to be held accountable. Here's the thing that's bad PR though. I think that either Tyra doesn't listen to her PR or her training from her PR has told her to just be silent because she won't listen.
Mm-hmm.
Or or um or they didn't give her good advice, right? Because she should, okay, first of all, you've been a model long enough to know what your face looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Because here's some media training PR stuff that, like I'm saying, if you don't have a soft heart, it will come across as you don't. That is true. But
Mm-hmm.
there are ways that you can act it. So her face doesn't read empathy at all. It never has. It didn't on the show. It won't ever, I don't think. She just has a RBF, right? Her
Mm-hmm.
face does not read, I love people. Come talk to me. Yes, yes, yes. That's not her, and that's okay. That part is okay. But here's where her PR team or her media team should have trained her better on, in my opinion, is how to take this. What she should have done was step back, almost zoom out, and take it as an active participant in reviewing something that she was a part of, and just took it as, wow, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's crazy. You know what I mean? Like she could have really went from a perspective of just looking at the clips they was showing her, and when they was asking her like, "Do you remember this person?" Instead of being like, I don't know that, like she was kind of making it like, no, like Shandy, who? Girl, you didn't be, Shandy was the whole topic. You had her on your show, the Tyra show, all that. So you ain't gonna tell me you sit up here and you don't know who Shandy is at all, right? Or she could have been like, oh my goodness, like off camera. Refresh my memory, y'all. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
turn the camera on.
You know,
Wow.
I really
Like
wish
she could have went wow. She
I
could have
really
sat
wish it
back in
was.
her chair, softened her
Mhm.
shoulders. Sorry, softened her, because I want everybody to know there's ways to get around RBF and media. There's ways to work through media and with good media training if you are open to it. She didn't seem to meet. Also, let me tell you something else. Sorry, while I'm on this soapbox
Mhm.
about media training, nothing about her appearance showed up with empathy either. You wearing this detective looking trench coat, crossover jacket that's tight with your boobs out. Her team could have done better if it came off as I don't care, and her team could have done better. Her makeup was too harsh. Her hair was too harsh. Her look was too harsh to say I have empathy. She should have, so she, come on now, there's body language experts out there. She should have showed up in a nice, pretty, flowy looking outfit that fit her well. She should have been in a comfy, soft chair. She should have been. These are subtle media cues to how you paint a picture and tell a story when you don't want somebody to look like the villain. I think Tyra is comfortable looking like the villain. And
No,
she knows they gonna come for me, so whatever. I'm a black woman. I had to make it in this industry. Y'all got the whatever. Boo, 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 boo. That's her position. If they could paint her position different, I don't think she wants her position to be painted different. I also think she eats media attention up. And I think there's another, while there's this other expose happening, there's also her, she teased at the end, another America's Next Top Model season coming that they're going to try to put out. And I don't know where we are as a country. Maybe first episode wins because everybody wants to tune in to see if it's going to be terrible. I'm not going to care about it, but there's some people who are sheep who just going to follow whatever the pops. It looks cool. They're going to go for it. I don't think many Americans will, living in the current climate we're in. But there's ways that her team could have painted her as a empathetic leader who made some mistakes. They did not invest in that.
mhm. So, I think that I agree with you that that's not what they invested in. I feel like if there was a posture that was a little bit more like the Michael Jordan posture in The Last Dance, where she came off like she was, who she is, I think should remain constant. But the idea that she was watching it and critiquing the mistakes and how she thought she needed to be for her to achieve what she achieved and to acknowledge the failings of it. That's how Michael Jordan came across to me in The Last Dance, right? And I put her in that sort of iconic role that was aloof and not reachable. She kind of embodied that. But now we live in a different media age, and unfortunately, her personality type doesn't translate very well into the space where we want authenticity from cultural figures. And that's why I believe your view is the view that a lot of people have taken, is because she's not translating into authenticity in this moment. And she had the opportunity to, and she still has the opportunity to. But what I think we've seen is that her media savvy is for a different era. And that is difficult for us to accept because we're
You said something.
to be a different level of media savvy. And I think that personally, she's bowed out of the game. She's not trying to play this game, the media game, as well as she did before. But she had developed a, from the young age of being on the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition. She was the first swimsuit edition that I ever bought of Sports Illustrated. She might have been the first Sports Illustrated magazine I ever bought. So I remember her from that moment and seeing her figure her way through to building a media empire. And that, in that age where magazines were in charge and she was being a supermodel, she was one of the last of the real supermodels, and translating that into a media empire and how she thought she had to be relative to the industry doesn't work now, right? But it was what she needed to be. And I just have a little bit of, maybe it's because of the Sports Illustrated.
It got you. The Sports Illustrated got. But you know what? Wait, you are saying something.
Mhm.
What you're saying though, her Tyra Banks persona is outdated. That's so real. You know, because okay, speaking of Michael Jordan, did you see the viral clip where he's like pinching his little boy's butt and like rubbing on the little boy's legs? It was giving old man. It was giving old man who bites kids' cheeks. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing. Like that's old men who will bite a kid. Like it's given an era of time. And so I agree with you that I don't think Tyra wants to play the game of today. However, she's teasing that there's going to be another America's Next Top Model that she's going to be doing. So it's kind of like, that's interesting. You don't want to play. I think that she won't quit, but she
Mhm.
also is outdated in the way that she carries herself. And then because that whole bit of like, yeah, I want y'all to call me on my shit. Tell me what I've done. Girl, it's given, what are we talking about? You know what I'm saying? Because call you on it. What are we wasting our breath for? You really, it's the attention that you love. It is, but you know, it's interesting because it makes me think about Wendy Williams. And I say that because it makes me think about the days of gossip that Wendy brought to us, and in the most terrible ways. I'm talking about that historical conversation with Whitney Houston. I'm talking about spreading all type, like getting deep into people's business and putting it out there. Eventually, she evolved into something that we all wanted to watch it because we was like, we knew her to be that gossip girl. It's hard to move away from those personas, right? It's hard to move away from that persona that everybody loved in the 90s, in the 80s.
Let me reveal a little story about my experience with Tyra Banks and her production team. So back when I was in law school, one of the producers of the Tyra Banks show, this is when she had her also had her television show, reached out to me and said, you know, you seem like a successful or on your way to be successful Black man, and we want you on the show to talk about your challenges of dating Black women, right? And I said to
Wait, pause. Challenges of dating Black women, y'all.
them,
You look like a successful Black man. We want to have y'all on. We want to have you on our show to talk about how successful Black men have challenges dating Black women. Okay, go ahead.
yeah, that was the invitation that was made to me. They said, "Oh, we'll bring you up from DC to New York. You get to talk about it. You get to be on national television." And my first reaction, I don't know if you ever seen Menace to Society, and a woman called Kane and asked him, tell them that she's pregnant. And I was my first. And he said, "Ain't mine." That was his first reaction. My first reaction to after I heard, "Oh, we want you on the Tyler Tyra Banks show, and Tyra Banks being, you know, someone as a young man that I was really excited to see on that swimsuit edition, I said, nah. And to me, that's an example of the responsibility that I thought for myself about the dialogue and conversation that I want to be a part of. But when you think about the Tyra production and her show and her level of accountability and responsibility to discussions in our community and just generally, that's not necessarily the type of things that she cared about at that time. She cared like what you're talking about with Wendy Williams, to just get the story out there, just to have it out there and to get media attention. So my while I might like her, you know, historically, I have I want to bond with her being a savior. I understand that she doesn't necessarily care in the same ways about responsible dialogue and responsibility around the content that she's creating in a way that I would expect of someone who has such cultural resonance, right? Especially amongst Black people, Black women.
But you know what was sad, in my opinion, is at the beginning of the show, right? She was like, I want to, you know, I went through this thing as a Black model, and that's why she had all these different body types, and that's why she put all these different kind of people. And Janice was talking shit about all the body types, and then she would be kind of fighting back against Janice. Then all of a sudden, it shifted to I will do anything. And Mr. J said this. I will do anything to keep my show. I will do anything to be on TV. I would do, because that's what, even with the Tower show, this became, I will do anything to maintain cultural relevance. And I think that from a mental health perspective, this should be visited, because I would do anything to maintain cultural relevance. Also, I think came from trauma from the fashion industry, right? And I think that, like, you know, she didn't have a place to blame some of this on that. And I also think that, like, to her credit, right? Because I still believe she's kind of cold, but to her credit, I think she was also protecting herself against lawsuits. So I also think that's why she kept quiet in the documentary a lot around some things, because I
Mhm.
think she was protecting herself from lawsuits. So she probably got some legal advice of like, hey, don't say anything that may make it seem like you should be sued for this, or that anybody can question that you should be sued. But I'm interested in the next expose that's coming out March 11 by E, because I'm wondering if there were lawsuits that nobody told us about and they did not talk about in this particular documentary. I don't see why they wouldn't have been lawsuits that would have came with America's Next Top Model. So I think that that's interesting. But let's get into this next part real quick before
Mhm.
we end, because I think that, to your point around, there's, you know, when we say believe Black women, protect Black women, Tyra is not, we also include her, right? So what it's, you know, it's like she's also a Black woman. What was happening with her? Did nobody call her on it?
Mhm.
Did nobody pull her to the side? Did nobody go, Tyra, look, girl, hey, that's too much. Like, hey, girl, look, you need to think about this. Hey, like, we see what's happening. Like, I think, and then there's a monster constantly created in that, and Kim Mott is putting the battery in the monster's back, and so is the network, right? So it's like
Mhm.
she doing whatever she want to do to keep her show going. She's doing whatever it takes to maintain cultural relevance, and then you got people putting a battery in her back, so the battery in her back is running too loud to hear anybody else, right?
Mhm.
That brings us to the 4 hour media breakdown by FD Signifier on YouTube. Y'all can go watch it. Yeah, look up FD Signifier. He did a 4 hour breakdown of Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry's career, Tyler Perry's aim, focus, characters. Cope put me onto it. I'm gonna let you kick it off. But this was one of the most thorough, very well researched, also very well articulated breakdowns of Tyler Perry that I think anybody has done to date. He should have been brought onto Netflix to do that with much more B-roll and many more like, he should be getting paid. Whatever YouTube pays him for that, they need to double it, because that joint was so dope.
It really was. I think that so let's talk about FD Signifier. This man, as a cultural commentator, shout out to my sister Patricia, who sent it to me first. She sent it to me. She and her husband, my brother-in-law, they watch things while they're working, and they send me things from time to time. So I got to give a shout out to her. But this 4 hour sort of class on that talks about media and Tyler Perry, his significance and the role that he has played just generally. Obviously, there's a take. There's a definite take. It's not like a course, but there's a take that he has. But to do this type of work that he's done, I believe is an interesting genre of content where people are doing deep dives on um, whether cultural topics or cultural figures, and I applaud it because when I think about doing short form or sort of nebulous stuff that we do, I think about people who create structure like this, like when we were poets when people wrote plays, I always aspire, like, I gotta be a screenwriter or a playwright. I love to be able to challenge myself to do these things. So shout out to him. He's talking about Tyler Perry, but really talking about black media, and he gives this background and information. But one of the things that he talks about with Tyler Perry that to me is this through line of all the stuff that we talked about today on the episode and everything else is around Tyler Perry's ability to provide and create opportunities for others. And this is something to talk about with Tyra Banks. There are lots of Black models that exist in the industry because she gave them an opportunity, right? And despite that show, she gave them opportunities that some like used, and they're still in the media. They still have their modeling career, or they had significant success and they've transitioned careers. But when you look at Tyler Perry, they talk about it and they say that Tyler Perry doesn't really have too many people that have come off of his tree, that live at his table that you can speak to, whether other directors, producers, but you can talk about actors that have gotten paid. But he probably pays a rate that is commensurate to how many days he shoots, and he shoots over 3 or 4 days. So he may write you a big check per day, but you're not going to be on set for the amount of time that would be required from a day rate perspective of other productions. But I'm not going to take anything away from someone that's cutting checks for people in an industry that's not cutting checks. But the opportunities that usually stem from productions are similar to like in football or sports where there's assistant directors, there's ads, there's all of these people that get all of this experience. And so for example, Spike Lee had, from Spike Lee's tree we get The Best Man, right? Spike Lee didn't direct it, but his nephew did, right? And you get all of these different people that come out of the ecosystems or the production environments that people create. But we haven't really seen too much of that from Tyler Perry. And that's what I wanted to touch on is like the responsibility of giving people a seat at the table that maybe is divorced from the ability to create content and money for yourself. And this is where AI really creates a problem, right? Like the ability to create content is great, but if you don't give people in the next generation the opportunity to learn what you're doing, you're actually killing an industry that you grew up loving,
But
right?
but hold on, is I want to dive into what you said. Basically, how is your power creating more people in power, right? So to the point of the FD signifier and his breakdown of Tyler Perry and the piece that Cope is talking about, I think that you're really great at saying it in ways that are like super articulate and like really good at like not demonizing anybody. So I just want to also say the same thing, but I want to break it down in a way that's going to maybe demonize him just a little bit. But
Uh,
just for the sake of y'all understanding what he was breaking, part of what he was breaking down. So basically, what the man was saying is Tyler Perry's power has not created more people in power. So let's take Oprah. Oprah, you got Dr. Phil, you got Ayanna Van Zant, you got Dr. Oz, you got what's the girl with the wealth lady? I can't remember her name, but
but
that lady.
Denisa,
It's a white lady, short haircut. Can't remember her name,
Mm-hmm.
more people. Also, Oprah's people that work behind the scenes with her ended up working behind the scenes in Power on other shows, right?
Mm-hmm.
In Power on other shows, not just as actors and actresses, right? Then you got, like you said, Ryan Coogler. Because of Ryan Coogler, then Michael B. Jordan gets to do some directing, right? Of
Mm-hmm.
Creed 3. Then you got, who was the person you named? Um,
Spike
Spike Lee.
Lee.
Because of Spike Lee, you got Spike Lee's son. Then behind it,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that even let the weigh-ins,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Right? You got, the weigh-ins gets on. Robert Townsend put a bunch of people on. So he breaks down how all these people have all these trees of power that they created. More black media power, more black people in power in the film industry. And then when you look at Tyler Perry, what he breaks down is there's no power that Tyler Perry is creating for black people in the entertainment industry. Now, is he creating jobs? Yes. Is he hiring more black actresses? Yes. Now, in the service that he's doing to those black actresses and actors as he's hiring them and some writers, what the guy's breaking down, what Cope just mentioned, is that he's shortening the window of their work. Therefore, they're still not getting paid as much as they would on some other productions. No tea, no shade to giving them some jobs at all. Love that. But what he's basically breaking down is Tyler Perry, unlike anybody else in the history of black creation, has made his entire empire off of black people specifically. Tyler Perry's audience is not widely white. Tyler
Mm-hmm.
Perry's audience is historically and deeply black. And so what he's breaking down is Tyler Perry has a responsibility that we don't hold him fully accountable to, right? Because everything that he built is off black women's pain specifically, right? Every single show that Tyler Perry has is built off of black women's pain specifically and for the black audience specifically, and has been built his entire empire by black audiences. Mostly. I'll say building a studio means you get other money, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna say that, like, even him getting to the studio phase all has to do with deeply with black people. So how do we take a person's, like, who's now, you have responsibilities of the black community that we should be viewing as different. So it's okay for black people to go, well, how much charity are you doing in the black community, since we're the ones that built that? Now we do it to white people. I've heard
Mm-hmm.
plenty of black people say, oh, white people made that thing high. Look at us not having ownership over it. Oh, white people, I'm sorry. I've heard plenty of black people say black people or black culture made that brand pop. Black culture or black people made that thing hot, made that app work. We made those things work. Where is our ownership? Where is your fiscal responsibility to us? We not doing that to Tyler Perry though. We not saying to Tyler Perry like, oh, you built this off of black people. Where's your fiscal responsibility to black people outside of hiring actors and actresses and back end people? Don't get me wrong. Hiring is wonderful. We love that. We need that. Thank you, sir. We're also saying, I think what FD Signifier had me ask myself is, what is the fiscal responsibility of Tyler Perry that we should be holding him accountable to as a black community that we are not, because we're going, yes, but a black man got it though. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
and right now we gave. I'm saying we as a black community, people gave Oprah hell for opening up a freaking school in Africa. People gave Oprah hell for not interviewing rappers. People gave Oprah hell for all the stuff. But guess what? Oprah's empire was built off of white women, okay, historically. So
Mm-hmm.
so he breaks that down in the video too. Here's one thing. Again, I said earlier that there was a couple of sobering moments for me over this last week. Here's something that he said that sobered me all the way the F up. And I was like, oh my God, I've been asleep. Okay. He said and I wrote in the chat so I won't forget. Don't forget that Tyler Perry as Medea is giving Big Mama advice. And he's giving advice that we all are like, yeah, that is something my grandma would say. But y'all, it's a man saying it. Okay. It's not your grandma. It's not a woman. It's a man saying it, and it's a man writing it. This is a black man telling black women what they need to be doing. It is a black man telling black women this moment of, smacking a kid upside the head or whatever the case. Like, it is a black man doing it. It is a man. Let's take the race out of it. It is a man saying to women, because you need to be thinking about close your legs, because you need to be wearing this, because you need to be whatever. Like sober up and snap out of it and say, wait a minute. This is not Big Mama. It's not a woman at all. It's nobody with a woman's actual experience. This is not a person in a woman's body at all. And I was like, oh, shoot, I never thought of that. Like, and don't get me wrong, because I'm Medea. I don't really watch all those Medea movies, but I'll say if it's a joke, it's funny. I laugh at it. If it reminds me of my grandma or some older Black person, then I might laugh at it. But like his breakdown sobered me up and had me thinking, wow, we are. One of the things he also said was Medea. Every one of the troubled kids Medea runs into, she's always thinking of hitting them, but they have all this trauma, which they already been hit or abused or abandoned. And that's never addressed in any other movies. And I think that maybe he's also saying we don't address it as a Black community. So why should he? I don't know. But if we, again, sobering moment, this is a man in drag doing this, not a woman. It's not a woman's comments. It's not a woman's thoughts. It is what he's hearing that women might be thinking. And then we're sitting there being like, oh yeah, big, Medea, Medea. What? No.
There's no one examines the the statements made by a man about Black women that is made by him. And that accountability.
No one examines the statements made about Black women by men made by Tyler Perry. Okay, I want to make that clear.
Yeah.
They don't. And in the way that they don't.
Yeah, and that to me is one of the biggest revelations in the FD Signifier video, where I was like, yeah, that is a problematic element that it seems like has skipped over everyone, because a lot of people agree with the posture that the character is taking, the tone and tonality of it seems to be okay. Now, Tyler Perry's also someone that I grew up with, right? Like I remember the videos that came from his plays and how that distributed through the Black church where my stepmother would go to, and there was, it was all over the place, and then how that turned into movies, and so I respect his ability to build empire, right? And that same thing that I do with Tyler
1000% agree.
I respect their ability to build empire. But FD Signifier says this across the his video that not everyone that almost every billionaire is built on the backs of people that
there's no ethical business billionaires, basically.
And so in the ethics of, there's obviously more value that accrues to him than other people. There's an element of the economic side of the takedown that the video has around how the way that he structured value creation, it all accrues to him from our community. It doesn't accrue to others, from the actors not really getting fair deals, even though they get paid. If they have a short-term movie, he gets the better of them because he films it so quick. And if he has a long-term engagement, he gets them to sign a long-term deal before they become popular. But similarly, not to say that he's special in this. This is what Marvel does as well. Marvel pays their actors very few dollars when they sign on to multi-film projects, and then they become famous, and then they transition from that fame and they start making money. So it happens in the Marvel ecosystem too. They sign long-term deals. But what the difference is, when people are in Marvel films, they are high quality productions usually that they get to use across the media ecosystem, and saying, I was in that film. Black actors don't get the economic benefit. They get the I'm working, but then they don't get the benefit of using that production across the ecosystem because of how he chooses to film it. So then the value accrues to him more than it accrues to others. Again, it's hard to be an ethical billionaire. how did you make the value accrue to you? How did you get the billions? So his method of making his value is destructive to a lot of the people in our community that he's helping moderately. And then when you look at it from the other side of what is the content itself, the content itself is also problematic. And it's not just because the content itself is from the imagery not being or the storylines, it's the actual dialogue. And so it was a really deep dive. And when you look at the constellation of someone's life or someone's industrial sort of impact, it's hard to piece together how you might feel about sort of some of the detracting things that they have done to build their empire. But when it's presented to you all at once in like a cake that has been baked, and it's like, wow, I knew I had a feeling that I wasn't really into the guy, but now this really solidifies like, I'm going to avoid this content going forward because I love black content in almost every form, whether it's foreign languages I don't understand, music that I don't even know the lyrics of, so when it's even when it's Tyler Perry, at first I was like, I'm not doing it, it's bad content. And then I just realized, well, if I'm not going to watch this black content and I watch Nollywood movies, I'm okay with bad content when I watch Nollywood stuff. I just do it so I can feel familiar and feel like I'm spending time with black characters, right? And it's similar to like reading romance novels. So it's like, you're just spending time with those characters to waste away time and entertain yourself. There's nothing too bad about it. But when I think about the consumption of some of the dialogue in the Tyler Perry stuff, it's just so bad. I'm always looking for his bad twist in his films. He's like the worst form of M. Night Shyamalan. That's how I feel about him. M. Night Shyamalan
But
always
I
has
think M Night Shyamalan is actually good. Tyler Perry's writing is not great, but it does. But it does. Here's the thing: respect to Black folks building empires, and because I think more than one thing could be true. Respect to that, and I think it is time. I think it's also okay for us to ask certain questions without thinking that it has to be a full takedown of him. There's
Mhm,
no takedown of Tyler Perry, like unless he like really comes out, he been doing stuff to kids or
mhm.
whatever. Or like I think this thing around him being gay, I think we all know he's gay, or not know he's gay. We all feel that he has an interesting lifestyle.
Queer he has a
Yeah, yeah,
queer
yeah, and I think
mhm,
that we're okay with it. Honestly, I think that like but for him it's probably better to be left in a gray area, right? Just
mhm.
because of he has the church community on lock. So I think it's like good for him to live in a gray area, right? I wish it, in my opinion though, if he didn't have to live in a gray area, I believe we could find him being more happy with just being able to be openly gay. And that's the thing, like even when I think about like Luther Vandross, is like he just never was able to be open, whatever he was. I'm not gonna say he was gay, whatever. He just was never able to openly love, and I really wish that for Tyler Perry in a sense of like openly loving and being open to being loving. I'm not saying that any of these accusations are true. These are all alleged. I'm just saying that like it seems like there's a place that he enjoys with Medea that is like yeah, and the guy FD Signifier said it, and I thought it was really interesting. It's like he seems more comfortable as Medea than you even see him being any other character, and I feel like that too. But maybe it's because it's a freedom for him, not because of sexuality, but just a freedom for him and how he grew up and what he feels like he knows best. One thing I'm interested in is that what does he do with his philanthropy, right?
Mhm.
So we FD Signifier gets into that just a little bit, but doesn't go deep. But like the Perry Foundation historically has low revenue, so they're not out raising a whole bunch of money.
Mm.
Their assets stay steady at 1.2, about 1.25 million every year, which tells me he must have some type of property or something like that inside the foundation that he's using. It could be interesting, anything, right? But like when I'm looking at the 990s and I'm like, oh, actually, if this is the correct foundation, I have to look it up. I have been looking it up. Oh wait, let me see. No, that can't be him. Hold up. The Perry Foundation is the name of it.
You know,
I'm looking through it.
what I agree with you on is when you talk about his foundation, and when you think about just Tyler Perry Studios and the value he's created, one of the things that I'm most worried about is when you're the writer, you're the director, you're the producer, I mean, and this is not to say that I wish anything bad upon him, but it's hard for you to maintain that level of output and to maintain that durability of value creation that you're going to that's going to come to you. And when you think about a foundation, there's no real transition or when you think about other directors, they're still out there making money. So at large, 70, 80. And when I think about a lot of people in the entertainment industry, they're still very active. So he probably has a very long road. I don't want to talk about it like he doesn't. But the idea that how is he going to translate the value that he's created into a durable, like actual cash? You know what I mean? Like, is he going to sell Tyler Perry Studios? Is there any value to Tyler Perry Studios if he's no longer making content? Like,
Well, so that's okay. Wait, hold that thought. I want to correct. Let me correct myself. I want to make it correct. So I know I'm saying the right thing. Actually, so their expenses are around 2 million. 2024, it was 2 million. Just to be clear about reporting. Of course, we're in the 2025 tax year, so I won't have that yet. But their expenses stay around 2 million in their revenue. So they're showing like a negative each year. I mean, it
mhm,
looks like charitable disbursements around $2 million. They do have people who are supposedly officers or of the organization. Doesn't look like they have much staff, if any. But it's fairly low considering, also we have to remember, like these people are a billionaire, like 1 billion, right?
mhm.
So same thing with Beyonce and Jay Z. These are $1 billion people. Not and don't no tea no shade. Most people won't see a billion in their life, but I'm just saying that like we also in the full context of people this is a lower level tier billionaire in a sense, right? For somebody who's worth 6 billion, 7 billion, 10 billion or more. This is these folks are at a billion and a lot of it is assets. So to your point, a lot of his $1 billion is going to be Tyler Perry Studios. Now, in terms of income, as far as I know, and we can do more research on this, the value is in other studios leaving. So people leaving LA and
Mhm.
Atlanta becoming a media like a hub for content creation because LA and California is just missing out on the credits for creating. It's too cost intensive. It costs too much to live here, be here, fly here, like all that kind of stuff. So where I think he has a lot of value is with these other partnerships, Lionsgate, MGM, blah blah, going and using the studios for different reasons. However, when we look at what's coming down the pike, where you have 50 Cent coming up as a strong contender. Now, when I say 50 Cent coming up as a super strong contender, because 50 Cent creates 10 times better content.
Mm.
So if 50 Cent comes out with a strong studio presence, plus the deeper understanding of the industry where he creates better content, then Tyler Perry may have a problem on his hands with that, which means that the Larry Ellisons of the world would now be approaching. So they can't get the Warner Brothers and Netflix. Guess what's up next to go try to acquire Tyler Perry Studios? If the Ellisons approach Tyler Perry and buy Tyler Perry out, you become a strong contender to Netflix and this Warner Brothers deal, right? So like,
Well, it depends. They already have the partnership between BET Plus and Tyler Perry. Like Tyler Perry is like one of the media darlings of the Skydance Paramount sort of ecosystem where he's producing most of the content that BET and BET Plus is airing, and they have a special deal. And they may increase their stake in terms of the Ellisons increasing their stake, or they may offload BET only to him. Or I think there's a opportunity there that I think would
what about
further.
that? What if they offload BET to him? I don't think they want to invest in BET anymore anyway.
I mean,
So why
it'd
don't,
be
because
really
you know,
interesting.
weren't people trying to buy it for a minute, or were they trying to buy
Mhm.
that whole like VH1, BET,
They were trying to buy
MTV?
BET. He was part of the people that was considering buying BET. I think the challenge with buying BET is similar to the challenge we talked about with Group Black earlier, is that you have to be able to sell ad inventory, and you're in competition with people who have more ad inventory than you. And why would you have less ad inventory and it become a better business than having more ad inventory to sell? So, it's a challenge of what would be the business model of selling ads. And it would be I would look forward to seeing if Tyler Perry could figure that out, because I think he would have to become a different business. It would take him to a different business level where he's selling ads. That's what Byron Allen is good at. Byron Allen is good at selling ads and fighting for equitable ad investment. I don't That's not what Tyler Perry has been doing. He hasn't had to suck up to um the advertisers. And even a person like the richest man in the world, Elon Musk, when he had to deal with advertisers, he realized that he can't win, right? So it is a humbling space to look for brand partnerships and advertisers, and having to humble yourself, whether you're a black billionaire or a white billionaire. You're going to have to learn to deal with being a servant to other industries. And I'm not sure he's ready for that. So I'm not sure him buying BT is the best move just yet, you know.
Here's the thing: is the strength of some of these folks fading too?
Mm,
Right? Because everybody assumes billionaire, you're in billionaire circles. Yes, you are. That doesn't mean they respect you in the same way. Doesn't mean they care about what you got to say. Doesn't mean they want to bring you in on deals. Like this is what Jay-Z has figured out that I think has had him at a certain level of the entertainment industry that needs to be studied. Because
mhm,
Jay-Z figured out how to get into the rooms in a certain way. And I don't know what he's given up to do it, right? I don't I you know, yeah,
mhm,
who knows? But he seems to have reached a level of respect among other billionaires. I don't, because he keeps quiet. He doesn't rage against the machine. He
mhm.
finesses and he moves through. And he does what he does. And he demands what he demands. And he stays looking blackety black on the outside. I don't know that Tyler Perry has that. And I think that like this is where like without here's the thing. Does Tyler Perry exist for 100 years without the white gaze?
Mhm. I think Tyler Perry has another turn to him. I think the turn is actually selling products. He's been able to sell content, but he
Selling
hasn't been.
products like what? Like Medea skins? Like what
No,
what is he
I think
selling?
I mean, to be honest, that's what media does. Like, if he can create, he's essentially Mr. Beast. He's creating tons of content that's creating at least a significant amount of black eyeballs that we all agree on. He needs to start selling a product, because right now AI is going to take away a lot of the value of his studios, right? And then
Especially if he doesn't enhance this writing level. Like
right,
the
and
stuff he writing, we could write on ChatGPT.
like,
Like,
and you have to ask yourself, is even though people
I mean,
love.
wait, let me not no tea, no shade. Okay. I don't want to say he's on a,
Mhm.
he the depth at which he has to write at. I don't
The
want to
guy's
shade that.
productive. He's a
He is
William
hella
Shakespeare.
productive. He's a Will Smith level productivity person.
But let me add another layer though. How many times do you go back and watch, Angry Black Woman, right? Like, how valuable is his catalog based on people's willingness to rewatch and license it in other geographies, so that it's like syndicated for real. Not to say that his fans aren't his fans, but how much of them are waiting for the new content versus actually valuing his backlog. And when you think about his actual value of what he's able to make money on, it's his ability to bring people and sell tickets to movies that is consistent, people to watch his content. But I don't know about how much legacy, in terms of how much time people are actually watching his old content, right? People aren't asking me, hey, let's go watch movies. Let's go watch this old Tyler Perry film. But people still telling me, let's watch Love Jones. People still coming out with Best Man. So I'm not sure how durable his content franchises are from a legacy perspective, such that his catalog is truly that valuable. And when you talk about estimations of people's billions, I think it's very skeptical that around the studio model, studios are going bankrupt. So I don't want to say this man doesn't have money. He got more money than me. But what I'm just trying to say is the future durability of his assets are in question. And I believe that he's an empire builder that will figure out the next leg
Yeah, he's
to
smart. I
build.
think he will figure it out. He's smart. I think, but to your point of durability, sustainability, it can't look the way it's looked. And you now we're in a different age. So to your point of saying that like Tyra's persona is outdated. I think that Medea continues to work, but I think some of his content is starting to be a little outdated and a little like out of touch. So I think that like in the sense that like, yeah, nowadays we're solving our issues and you still talking about us having the issues. So
Hmm.
the days of saying that, oh, here's one character who's been sexually assaulted, abandoned by their mom, living on the street, homeless, has no shoes, can't find food to eat, but they're the main character is losing the plot now, right? Like we're now at a point where we're like, okay, we're now looking at like solution oriented characters or mystery characters. So if some of the content he's put out lately that's trying to tap into love in a certain way, we're just not the narratives that everybody's bought into now has a little bit more mystery in it. The scorned black woman, he keeps with that one, right? I think he feels like that's a narrative that won't die. I'm hoping that we as black women stand up and say the scorned black woman narrative is dying out for us. That's not all of who we are. We don't want to be painted this way. 300 plus thousand of us are out of jobs right now, and partially because this is also what people believe of us, that we're scorned, that we're damaged goods, that we have too much of an attitude to be promoted, that we're too strong willed, we're too whatever. It's like, you know what? That narrative, we got like, I feel like as black women, we got to start fighting some of these narratives no matter where they come from. That's no
Hmm.
tea, no shade to him. But you also can't do that narrative anymore, sir. Neither can the white folk, neither can the white man, neither can the white. Like, you can't just keep painting us in these lights and expecting that we progress as a community, right? And so I think that, like, we finally sort of rid ourselves of the crackhead persona that lived with every movie there had to be a black crackhead.
Hmm.
You don't see that as much now. We finally shed that in some ways. What
Hmm.
other narratives do we need to shed as a community in order to move forward? And I don't know that we're doing it so that white people see us better, right? Like I don't want to paint it that way. I'm just saying, like, I think we're doing it so we see ourselves better. Like some of the things that people are upset with the America's Next Top Model, well, these were
Hmm.
women we were looking at that they were telling us was too fat. And we're like, dang, I'm just as big as her. So am I
Hmm.
too fat? So like you got these women who are beautiful playing these women who have like pounds of pain. And then you're like, is this supposed to be inspiring or am I supposed to be depressed about this? Like, I don't know which one I'm supposed to feel at what moment. And I think again, losing the plot. Like, what is culturally relevant right now, and what are the
Hmm.
new churches doing? Because I think that like that it's like the old church narrative. Some of that old church narrative has died out a little bit. Like, not as many people are into suffer to gain as the way they used to be. And so I think doing the Medea movies kind of like can help like entertain and make people laugh in the meantime. But I'm curious as to where he'll evolve as well.
Yeah, I'm curious on where he's gonna uh, sort of evolve. I think we're we. This is the perfect sign. We need to we need to wrap up because it's
I
all
know, cause
dark.
look, it's in turn nighttime. We started this whole thing in the daytime, and now it's nighttime. All right, so thank y'all all for listening, watching, all of that. Listen to the Omi Show every Sunday on Sirius XM channel 126 Urban View. It airs at 8 a.m. PST and 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So tune into the show. If you missed the show, you can always go to my YouTube at the Omi Show, and you can check it out and make sure you're following, subscribing, all those things. This is long. We can get lots of clips out of it, but we appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in. All right,
Thank
Cope, thank you
you.
so much. We'll see y'all next time. We out. We out.